All right, I am back today, still May 18th. I had a bunch of errands to run and I wasn't actually going to record the winter part of this message until tomorrow. But when I got home, there was a song playing on the radio that I had never heard before, or it was a K-pop song on my random playlist. So I parked the car in the driveway and I shut the car off, and then I paused whatever song was playing, because in the meantime while I was driving I was just talking to my son. And so then I paused it and I looked, and the song title was called Let Them Know. And I was like, you want me to talk about this winter stuff now? Like, just do it. And then I was led to Strong's Greek 1804, which means to tell out, proclaim, I announce. So pretty much God's like, you have the stuff and you have the time, just do it. So that's what I am doing right now. So I'll just jump into the winter part of this whole weather thing. I believe this is the last one about weather that I'm going to be putting out there. I heard in my sleep the word prepare, and I've heard that many times, and I wasn't sure what it was for. Prepare for what? Always be prepared, you know. I just didn't know where this would fit in, and I'm sure it's gonna fit somewhere else, but it fits in here because recently, as I was thinking about these weather videos I was gonna be posting, consistently over the last few weeks, I kept hearing prepare, prepare. Even when I wasn't sleeping, I would just be doing something and randomly that thought would just drop in my head, prepare, out of nowhere, to where it didn't make sense with anything that I was doing or what I could be thinking. God made it stand out, so I couldn't think I was just thinking that word on my own, if that makes sense. I heard a song in my sleep, and it was called Somebody by Jungkook, and it's in English. He sings that album in English, and the lyrics are, winter's cold, summer's strange. So I already did the video about summer, which, by the way, there was 2 songs that I left out, which both songs say Cruel Summer. One is by Taylor Swift and one is by Bananarama from the 80s song. So it's a Cruel, Cruel Summer. Then, like I said in the summer video, he brought me back to a message that I did in the Jeremiah videos, which I have Jeremiah, where I go over Jeremiah 4, 5, and 6, where I mentioned this specific dream. And it had to do with a war, so it went with that message. But also in that video, I said something about, I don't know where this part goes, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it in this video because it was part of that dream. So that's in the Jeremiah 6 video that I have posted. So I'm going to revisit that dream just to read it here. And in that dream, I was standing outside on my back porch. I'm reading straight off the paper. It was gloomy outside. I couldn't tell if it was because it was getting dark or that was just how it looked all the time. There were about 20 to 25 other people standing there too, kind of leaned against the bricks and the windows of my house, as well as the brick columns on my back porch. People were huddled together to keep warm. I was standing in a group of maybe 5 people, and I was by a woman who was taller, older, and she was German. She began to tell me about how she had already been through a Cold War. She said that she didn't like how our government was sending all of our supplies to other countries, leaving us with not enough, almost nothing. I remember her mentioning a gas mask, but I can't really recall what else she said about it. Then I walked toward another group. The German woman followed behind me. This time it was just 3 people, me, the German woman, and 1 more girl. This is when I leaned in and said to them, winter is coming. For real, God's been telling me to prepare for a freezing winter. So that was the dream I originally shared in the Jeremiah 6 video, and God's bringing it back to me because I'm mentioning being huddled together to keep warm, and also the part where I tell them that God has consistently been telling me in my dreams to prepare for winter, which also goes back to why I kept hearing the word prepare. I heard winter is coming, which is off of the show Game of Thrones. Yes, I watched Game of Thrones way back when. And then I heard King of the North, which just keep popping through my head, which is also from Game of Thrones. And in that show, they consistently say winter is coming, there's going to be a cold winter, all those things. But just to go along with that theme, okay, I was led to Jeremiah 4:6. It says, raise the signal to go to Zion, flee for safety without delay, for I am bringing disaster from the north, even terrible destruction. But the only reason why God brought me that verse when I heard King of the North in my sleep was because in that show, they are preparing for winter, and in that show there are things called White Walkers, which are zombies of the cold weather. The point is, that's what they're worried about, is from the north, is this massive winter that's going to be coming that people need to prepare for. I hope that makes sense. I'm not talking about other things in this video. And then I've had 2 visions of someone with icy blue eyes, and one of them was even a newborn baby that had icy blue eyes. But how this is leading back to the Game of Thrones is these things called White Walkers, which are like that show's version of zombies. They have white eyes and they come from the north. They live in the winter, in the cold. Oh, I just remembered a dream. It just popped into my head. I did not think it was going to be here. I'm going to mention just a piece of it because it goes with a different message that I knew I was going to give, and I've been putting it off since January, okay? In one of these dreams, I come back to my home and my dogs are out there, and it's like freezing cold, and people are acting like I had abandoned my dogs, but my dogs were back there. But something had happened to my dogs, which I will talk about probably in not the next video, but the video after, because God has been getting on me about why I had not shared that dream when God brought some stuff together for a video that, like I said, from January. Sorry guys, this is getting kind of sidetracked, but I will give that message and the rest of that dog dream. But the main point was, in that dream, people thought I left my dogs in the winter and abandoned them during this cold winter, and I had gone to a house across the street because my neighborhood was kind of empty, and I went into the house across the street and they allowed me to use their bathroom so I can give my daughter a warm bath because they had a generator. Okay, so you'll hear the rest of that dream when I give the next couple of messages, okay? Back to this. In that video, the Jeremiah 6 video, I talk about how I kept seeing twice the ice, the phrase, and then God kept leading me to penguins as well as polar bears. I also recently was led to YouTube short videos of dogs not wanting to walk in their snowshoes, and this is going to kind of go back to the summer video, because you're not going to want to walk your dogs on this hot, whenever that summer is, that's extremely hot. I don't know if it's this coming summer or the next, I don't know that, but you're going to want to protect your dog's paws in the winter as well as in the summer. What else? Oh, and then they didn't want to go potty outside because they didn't even want to walk in the snow. And then a YouTube short of a guy who saw on the news that snow was going to be coming overnight, so he went out there before the snow fell and laid out this like a bed flat sheet, so that in the morning when he had to let his little like Yorkie out, he lifted up the sheet and underneath was fresh grass for them to go potty on, but there was no there wasn't snow because he had protected that area, that one little square area, so that the dogs didn't have to worry about the snow and the ice. Then there's an AC company around town that they have this truck that has fire and ice on it, and this particular time that I saw it, I was driving, but on the overpass was one of those trucks, but all I could see was the top of the truck, you know, from mid to the top of the truck, which was just ice. So God was having me look at it and be like, ice, 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 it's gonna be cold. And yes, because I said ice multiple times, I thought of Ice Ice Baby, but that wasn't originally what I was gonna put in this song, or in this video. Then I kept getting pressed on me about firewood. And on the side of my house, I have these large, like, chunks of wood from when we had snowvid. And that's when it got super cold here in Texas. We had lost power for about 5 days. Now, these big chunks were ones that were given to me. I think a lady had posted she cut down some trees and they were just big chunks and they were free. So I went and picked them up because I was like, ooh, what if we run out of firewood for this coming winter? But that winter didn't get cold and I didn't even have to use it. But God has been placing it on me now to start chopping that wood and get it fireplace ready. As well as my husband kept mentioning this particular arborist that we met. He was very, what is the word I'm looking for? He was a character, super nice guy, but just one of those characters that you just never forget. And my husband kept mentioning it to him. But the reason why this is important is because during snowvid, when we had no power, it was really hard to find firewood. And this guy, he gave us firewood for free. He was actively being hired to cut down an area that had lots of trees because it was going to get developed. They didn't care what he did with the trees. He let me open up my expedition, because that's what I had, and I opened up the back and he completely filled my expedition with all this wood that he gave us for free because we didn't have power and we had no other way to keep warm. So again, going back to firewood and keeping warm in cold winters. Last about the wood, or second to last about the wood, is my husband was watching YouTube in the living room and he was just scrolling through these YouTube shorts, and the video popped up of a man who sold firewood, but he had this little, like, it looked like a wooden house, but it was big. It's not a house, but like, I can't think of a word to describe it. Sorry guys, my brain is just like, burp, but I don't want to stop and re-record this. It kind of reminded me of like a huge dollhouse, like with each section being a room. So each thing was sectioned off and it had different size amounts of wood and the price above it. And so really he just put a little rooftop on top, which was why I thought it looked like a house. But on the side of it was like a mailbox and a slot that you could put your money in when you got that wood. So it was like a trust thing. I trust you're going to pay for this wood that you're going to take from this sections. Like, this is a 5-piece bundle, a 10-piece bundle, a 20-piece bundle, stuff like that. But I was led to a particular verse in Lamentations 5, chapter 5, verse 4 of the NLT, and it says, we have to pay for water to drink, and even firewood is expensive. Which, this is a conversation that me and my husband had the last winter, because we went to Walmart to buy some firewood, and it was like $8 for like 4 pieces of wood, and one of them looked like a 2x4 in there. It wasn't even like what you think firewood would look like when you buy it in a bundle like that, the ones that they keep outside. Then, part of a dream, I was with my dad and it had begun to rain, and I went over to the car and I saw rain droplets on the window. But every time I touched a rain droplet, it would turn into a snowflake. And I did this repeatedly because in my dream this was so cool and so fun, and I was smiling and I was like, wow, this is so great. But eventually the entire window was frozen, and then I noticed that the entire car was frozen with ice and snowflakes. I was led to a song by V called Winter Bear, and the lyric is sleep like a winter bear, because what do bears do in the winter? They hibernate. Then one day I heard in my sleep a phrase, and it said, ladies and gentlemen, Peak Boy. I knew that this was from a song, but I didn't know what song it was from. So at the time I had to call my sister. I'm like, what is this song that they say, this ladies and gentlemen Peak Boy? My sister's like, oh, that's a song by V featuring Peak Boy. And when I looked up the lyrics, the beginning of the song, you can hear footsteps, but you know it's the sound of footsteps in snow. Then the lyrics are, hey snow, it's coming, what do we have to prepare? And then another lyric, in this cold season, what you're coming for is an event. And then the part where it says ladies and gentlemen Peak Boy, his verse starts and it says, when the world turns beautifully white, did you see the snow? I also heard the word sprout, and in my summer video when I talked about tornadoes, I mentioned hail, but the hail will fit here, Strong's Hebrew 1258 hail. And then this last part is the last verses I have from scripture to go over all the things that I've talked about in these weather videos. When I talked about rain, flood, I talked about the hot summer, and now I'm talking about an extreme cold winter. All of these seasons, when this happens, it's going to be a peculiar, I couldn't get that word out, kind of experience with this extreme weather. So the verses I have is Job 38:22-30, and it says, have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or seen the storehouses of the hail, which I reserve for times of trouble, for days of winter and battle? What is the way to the place where the lightning is dispersed, or the place where the east winds are scattered over the earth? Who cuts a channel for the torrents of rain, and a path for the thunderstorm, to water a land where no one lives, and uninhabited deserts, to satisfy a desolate wasteland, and to make it sprout with grass? I have been going on and on with my husband about planting grass seed. That totally makes sense now. Verse 28 says, does it rain, or does the rain have a father? Who fathers the drops of dew? Which goes back to the dream where all these little water droplets. And it says, from whose womb comes the ice? Who gives birth to the frost from the heavens, when the waters become hard as stone, when the surface of the deep is frozen? So that is all the stuff I have about the winter, as well as kind of wrapping up the extreme weather that God is trying to put out there to let us begin to prepare. So anyways, guys, find the light, or always find the light. I'll be back tomorrow and I'll post my next message. All right, thanks.